Today on Talking Solutions, I've been waiting a long time to get to this subject and finally got a full house. Carlo Vanetti is the one who first came to us and said, could we maybe talk about spina bifida? And also there's a walk coming up during the month of November. We'll fill you in on all of that. Also in studio, Michelle Blazzard and Pat Siprutt. We are all here to talk about spina bifida. I just went through a nutrition degree program this summer. First part of the course was talking all about pregnant moms, the nutritional needs for babies. And one of the early things that they brought up was making sure that moms got folate to help possibly prevent spina bifida, which is always very important, and we would emphasize that. But then again, that doesn't help you when it's a situation where spina bifida is a part of your life. So I'm believing that all three of you, Carlo, Michelle, Pat, all of you are affected in some way with spina bifida. Carlo, I want to start with you. You're the one who came to me and said, we need to talk about this subject. What's your story with spina bifida?
I'm 32 years old, and they didn't diagnose me until I was 15 years old in this town, and I've had 2 surgeries and possibly a third, but, you know, I'm just learning to deal with it. And because of this great organization, we're not alone, and we can all just brand together and bounce ideas off and make this chapter a success. But not only that, but to educate people and to get more research done to make our lives better, especially for the younger generations. It is me and Pat. We've been through a lot. We'll be a good contact to them, but I know in my heart I want the children like Michelle's to live a better life and the ones that are behind them that are coming up.
That's the connection. Michelle has kids with spina bifida. Carlo and Pat actually deal with spina bifida themselves. If you're not aware, spina bifida is a neural tube defect. So when we talk about pregnant moms and how we want to make sure that folate is part of that early pregnancy diet, that it's very important, it is. But today is mostly talking about life with spina bifida. Now, Carlo, you said you were not even diagnosed until you were 15. What were you thinking and what were your parents thinking during that time? What symptoms did you have that made the doctors say something is wrong?
I was losing my ability to urine and my bowels, and I ended up spending over 2 weeks in Sunrise Hospital. Well, they couldn't figure it out, and it took the right doctor to get called in, and he called emergency surgery. And at 15 years old, I was a gambler. I said, let's roll the dice. Mom, nervous wreck pulling her hair out every time. Thanks to the doctor, I still have my ability to walk, but is it getting better? No. Do I need another one? Yeah, probably, but here in Las Vegas, there's a lot of issues and channels they need to do, so I'm working with insurance to go out of town to get the proper care so they don't mess it up. But I also want to dedicate the information from what they find in me and my problems for the kids.
Exactly.
So they can have a better procedure and an easier time.
I feel the same way, Carlo, because I've got MS. I went to Capitol Hill for people with disabilities, and it wasn't so much for me. I can see the same thing in you. It's not so much what I'm going to get out of it. It's what kind of information and understanding of the condition can I share with people so that we can raise awareness. Also, what can we do to help make it better for the kids coming behind us down the road? Michelle, did I understand you've got 2 kids?
I have 2 children with spina bifida.
Is it an ultrasound situation where they say we can see something has happened?
Well, my first child, when I was 4 months pregnant, I went in for an ultrasound, just a routine check, and that's where they found that she had a spot open on her spine. And then they did an amnio to confirm that there was some fluid in the amniotic fluid, meaning she had a hole in her spine. It was leaking out. And so we knew she had spina bifida from the get-go, so we were able to be prepared to have her spine closed when she was born. And then about 2 weeks after she was born, she developed hydrocephalus, which goes along with spina bifida sometimes, and she had a VP shunt put in, and we went from there. My second child, I went in because I was considered high-risk pregnancy from having a child previous with spina bifida. They didn't find anything on the ultrasound with her, but they went ahead and did an amniocentesis just because I was a high risk, and they found some of the spinal fluid in the amniotic fluid. So if it wasn't for that, I would have never known that she also had spina bifida. But when she was born, she needed her back closed up also and a VP shunt put in.
Well, and I understand that there is a little bit of a genetic component, and that's what you were mentioning. Sometimes when you have one child with spina bifida, there is a higher possibility
Correct.
that you might experience that again.
Yes.
How old are the kids?
Now they are 13 and 10.
Wow.
Yes. One has to use DAFO braces to walk. The other one walks fine. By looking at her from the outside, you wouldn't know that she had spina bifida. My older one, you can tell by the way she walks. But they both have hydrocephalus, which is a VP shunt, and they have bowel and bladder issues, and one of them has kidney failure.
So you're looking at a possible transplant down the road for the one kidney?
Mm-hmm.
Just a few days ago, they were talking about how in Target's Halloween ad in the paper, one of the kids is on crutches. And what a big step forward that is. It's shining a light on the fact that disabled people like to do stuff too.
Right.
We want to celebrate Halloween. We want to do things. And every time something like that comes forward, I smile. We need understanding. We need inclusion. We need to make sure that everybody has a chance to experience things. I remember the first time that a Miss America had a disability. This was years ago, and she happened to be deaf. And I'm watching it, and I know as a person who also has a disability, the tears just started coming down because people who have issues should be given the same opportunities. So I'm hoping that is happening more. And
Absolutely.
That's one of the reasons why we want to shine a light on it. Carlo, we know a little of your story. Michelle, we've got at least the outline of yours. Pat, what's your story with spina bifida?
It's a long one, which is good. When I was born, it was obvious because I didn't have a lumbar. I had one higher up. The first thing they told my mother was, she's only going to live to be 2 months, so just leave her at the hospital and let her die. Well, luckily, my mother was very stubborn. I was not a first child. I was a second child. She took me home, and the spine was still open because nobody in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada knew what to do. So she continued to take care of me at home. My parents both phoned around, and they discovered that there was some place that they could go that might offer me something. One was in Seattle, which was a long way to go, and the other was in Winnipeg, Manitoba, where my father's family lived. So they threw my sister and I in the car, and off we went, and I even think it was a dirt road at the time. So it was like an 8-hour drive, and I had my first surgery, which closed my spine. Now, I did not develop hydrocephalus. I remember her saying that she'd come into the room at the hospital, and they would have marks on my head, because once they close the spine, they check by seeing if the head has swollen. I know I've been accused of having a swelled head sometimes, but it's not from the spina bifida. And there was no place for therapy and things like that. But my mother was inventive, and she did therapy to nursery rhymes, and she raised me. She had 3 kids, me in the middle, and of course I'd take advantage of everything I could get or not have to do. She didn't go along with that. I remember when I was about 5, my mother invented accommodation. It was time to do dishes, and that's when we started. Gwen started at that age, and at 5 I did, and it was like, but I can't reach. And my mother said, yes, you can. She put a stool down by the dishes. She picked me up, put me down on the stool, gave me a cloth, and said, yes, you're going to do your job. And like I say, she was a wonderful person. I would run and play with my brother. I had full-length braces, and so I'd end up on the road. Neighbors would try and come out and help me. My mother would actually stand at the doorstep and say, let her alone and let her get up. When I started school, they wanted me to go to schools for people like me, which of course it went over great with my mom. She refused. She said she's coming to this school. Her sister's here. My sister was a straight A student, and since nobody knew what spina bifida was, they expected me to be a straight A student. And I had surgeries quite often. To date, I've had 43 and don't anticipate any more. I'm 66. I'm a grandmother. I knew I could never physically have children, which is okay because I adopted 4 of the greatest kids on earth. They're fantastic. They grew up with a mom that was in a wheelchair, and they thought it was kind of cool. I can remember sitting in an easy chair watching TV. Next thing you know, my chair was gone, and there was my son wheeling down the sidewalk. So they thought that his mom was cool. During the year of the disabled, they asked me if I'd go around to schools talking, and I did. And one of the things that the kids asked me, number 1, was, can you pop a wheelie? Yeah, I can pop a wheelie. I played tennis, I've done racing. I got my education degree, and I taught school for several years. When I moved to the United States, I got a job working with an advocacy group and ended up working for a parish running the transit system and the disability awareness office at the same time. So I'm still here, still doing whatever I can. I was in the Miss Wheelchair America contest.
Really?
That's awesome.
Finished 3rd. 5 children, 14 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. Wow. We just keep going because my mother said so.
Pat, that's key. You had a mom mom who certainly understood what you were dealing with spina bifida, but she wasn't giving you breaks. She was going, no, you can do more than you think you can do.
Yes.
And look what you've accomplished. Cool mom, I think. When you were born, she was told that you were only going to be 2 months, and then that was it.
That was it.
And you're looking a lot older than 2 months.
I know.
Not to slam on age or anything, but you've gone way beyond the 2 months. We're talking today about spina bifida. We've got Carlo in-house. Michelle is here. Pat just told us her story. Now, Michelle, you've got 2 daughters. You said they're 10 and 13. Do you have kind of the same approach as a mom where you say, I understand what you're going through. I understand the challenges, but you can still do a lot of stuff.
Absolutely. And even if you can't do it the way everybody else does, we'll find a way to do it and get it done. Might be done differently, but we'll do it.
What about the school arrangements? Because there are certainly a lot of different special needs classes and teachers and students.
Right.
Have they been able to mainstream? What is their school situation?
Absolutely. They're able to mainstream, which is wonderful. They're in the general education system, and they do have to take time away to use the restroom to catheterize themselves every couple hours. My older one does have an aide sometimes that comes in the classroom to help her with things, but they're able to go to school just like everybody else and participate as much as possible in everything.
And like we saw in the Target ad, put on a Halloween costume and celebrate a holiday every now and then. And that's the way to do it.
Well, and I think even just getting this stuff out there and being educated and educating everybody else about different disabilities, including spina bifida, the more that we make it aware, the more things are possible for everyone to do.
Absolutely. I know we were talking just before the show started, discussing spina bifida, and I think all of us agree that life is good, even with challenges. Carlo, what is the toughest thing that you face on a daily basis when it comes to spina bifida?
The toughest thing is swallowing my pride with using assistive devices now that I'm getting a little bit older. I still get a lot of dirty looks and rude comments, but I'm just, you're just jealous or you got an issue that you want to make yourself feel better about by messing with somebody else.
Sometimes people do that. They feel bigger by putting somebody else in a lower status, and
just got to learn to ignore them.
Yeah, you go on. And I do agree with you about the hardest part is having to use an assistive device. No, I want to do this all myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you do have to swallow your pride. I find that most people, pretty much everybody I come across, they are more than happy to do a little extra to help you achieve what you're trying to accomplish. We've got some stuff coming up. Is it Spina Bifida Association? Do we have a group here in town? And how many people are involved?
We do have an association in Las Vegas, and we've been up and running for, 4 years? So we're a little late because it's been a national and other state associations for many, many years. It started there was about 3 or 4 people, and we've expanded by word of mouth, and I think a lot of the doctors are referring families to the association, get together, discuss issues. Everyone has an issue. This is happening to my body, and someone else there and say, that happened to me. We can share our experiences, and we can encourage the little ones and be there for each other. But sometimes people need financial assistance, things that aren't covered. And the awareness part. Maybe there's some people out there that don't know that there's a Spina Bifida Association, and yet they're affected by it in some way. That's what the walk is all about. It's a walk and roll. I know that Michelle and Carlo have done it. It's for everyone. Come up and put down $10 and walk with us. And it's an awareness thing and a picnic type atmosphere, families. So we're really excited about it. November 21st.
I see Cornerstone Park in Henderson.
Yeah, right now our biggest donator to the association is Glenn Lerner, and we're still hoping for more sponsors. And we've got some fun games for the children, cakewalk.
We used to do cakewalks back in grade school. That was fun.
You can go by registering for this walk on walkenrollforsb.org.
We're on the bottom of the page. They list all the ones that they have across the United States. Ours in November is the last one of the year.
Because our weather is such that we can actually do things
it at
in November.
Not snow, which is good.
Yes.
And also, for you people that do come join us, we will have a very large array of items to be auctioned off, either silent auction or regular. They haven't been decided. We have wonderful staycations in Boulder City, HD TVs, food items, gift cards, and stuff like that, but we're always working on making it better every year.
This is a great opportunity opportunity to raise awareness about spina bifida. And when it's a walk and roll, Pat, like you were saying, are you going to roll your way through this whole event?
Yeah, I have every year.
November 21st, Cornerstone Park in Henderson.
Join the Spina Bifida Association of the Intermountain Region for a walk and roll event on Saturday, November 21st at 10 a.m. at Cornerstone Park in Henderson. Walk and Roll for Spina Bifida is a family-friendly, non-competitive walk event. Proceeds are used to support local community programs and services for all affected by spina bifida. Join us for our walk and roll event Saturday, November 21st at 10 a.m. at Cornerstone Park in Henderson. For more info, visit walkandrollforsb.org. That's walkandrollforsb.org. Sponsored by Glenn Lerner Injury Attorneys.
We're also going to provide breakfast and a barbecue for all the people that compete in the walk. We'll have hamburgers and hot dogs courtesy of a local Albertsons.
Thank you, Albertsons. Nice when businesses here locally step up to help us with causes.
Yes.
One of the things I'm sure that the Spina Bifida Association does is give parents who have children with spina bifida a place where you can go and talk to other people who understand.
Absolutely.
And resources that are available. Michelle, with the first of your daughters, who would be 13 now, how did it feel to you when in that ultrasound you saw that there was an issue with spina bifida? Did you know anything about the condition?
I had no clue what spina bifida was. I had no idea. So I went home and spent about 2 weeks researching as much as I could. Now, this was back when the internet wasn't as easy to research stuff. So I had to do a lot of it at the library and as much online as I could get a hold of. But I was lost. And so I wish that we had something like we do now, like the Spina Bifida Association, to contact someone just to get insight of what it is and where do I go. I didn't even know what to do. I felt lost. That's why I feel it's important for us to have something like this now.
How great is it to meet somebody who has a similar situation? There is nothing like the understanding of somebody else who also deals with spina bifida.
Yeah, that's true. When I was living in Canada, the first time I met another person with spina bifida, I was 30 years old. I'm of the era where polio was the big thing. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times people would obviously notice a disability and automatically say, oh, you've had polio. They knew what that was, but they didn't know about spina bifida. And so when I met this gal in Toronto, I mean, we talked and talked. That's when I got really involved and actually got to be the first president of the Spina Bifida Association Canada. It was cool.
There's just nothing that can compare with somebody else who gets it because they deal with the same thing that you do every day.
Exactly.
The people who love us, they do everything they can to understand, but they don't know what it's like from within. No fault of theirs, but having somebody else that you can understand. Do you still come across any people who don't understand or don't know what spina bifida is?
Yes, all the time.
When you meet a person like that, and we call it these days your elevator speech, what do you tell them about spina bifida?
I tell them it's a neurotube defect where the spine was split and anything that was damaged from that area of the spine down, there can be damage to other areas of the body.
And then they understand a little bit more.
I think.
All you can do is try. Give the knowledge where you can. Maybe refer them to a website. Yes. Say, on your smartphone, you could look it up.
Thank goodness for those.
Even Wikipedia. Do whatever you got to do. Well, it's good to have an association. Spina bifida is a rare enough occurrence to where there can't be that many people.
Statistically, they say it's 1 in 1,000. It happens far more than we know. There is the mortality rate. A lot of women who do conceive and are having a child with spina bifida take the approach that they're not going to have that child. Nobody knows the causes. We're working on the folic acid aspect, but it is more common than people would think. It's just that those people are, I've met people across America where this one gentleman, a super guy, but he spent the first 10 years of his life being shunned by his parents and kept in the house because they were ashamed of the fact that they had a child with a disability.
Not fair.
Yeah, you do hear some horror stories. And then other families just want to cope with it themselves.
There's different forms of the spina bifida also, where some people like Carlo who didn't know until he was 15 that he had it, so there's not always a detection, but it's very common. Sometimes the spine's closed, so they have no idea when they either get older and have symptoms like Carlo, or some people go their whole life not not really know that they have it. The symptoms aren't stopping them.
It's not tremendously common, but Pat, you're saying about 1 in 1,000.
That's what we were quoting, that it does happen 1 in 1,000.
And I have heard that there is a little bit of a genetic component,
Right.
which, Michelle, you
Right.
dealt with that, having 2 girls.
Especially being on the extra folic acid with the second one for years
Yeah,
before.
because you were looking out saying, I can do this. And
it still happened.
All of those nutritional moves that hopefully help to prevent. I'm sure that Spina Bifida has existed for centuries
Right.
before we ever figured out that folic acid might actually be an element that could help us prevent. It's been here, I'm sure, for a long, long time.
Yeah, archaeologists several years ago discovered a tomb they felt was royalty way back, talking a couple thousand years, and examining the skeleton, they could tell that this person had hydrocephalus by the enlarged head. The body wasn't as large as the rest of them. So the conclusion that they came to was this ancient person had spina bifida. Just kind of blew us all away.
So it's obviously existed way back into
Right.
history. Now we've got the nutritional tie-in where we say for expectant moms early in their pregnancy especially that folate can be helpful. But Michelle, you tell me too, not in every case. Just like spina bifida has existed for so many centuries.
Right.
Even taking folate is not a 100% guaranteed preventative tool.
No, it's not. There's 8 babies born a day in the United States that have spina bifida, so that's how common it is. There's just different types. Like I go undetected, and yeah, I took the folic acid. Even with my first child, I was on prenatal vitamins a year before we got pregnant with her, just because I wanted to be healthy and do everything right and ate right. So with her, I was even on the recommended daily dose of folic acid. But even with the second one, I made sure I was on additional 2 years prior to conceiving her. So
that wasn't it.
no.
I talk about so many different kinds of disability awareness issues on this show, and it seems like parents always do splash it back on themselves. Parent always thinks it's something I did or something I didn't do. It's my fault. It's not. It just happens sometimes. But I think the major thing is how do you take it and proceed from there? Here you've got 2 girls. I'd love to see a picture. I bet you've got one. 10 and 13, they're mainstream. What is the hardest thing about dealing with spina bifida, Pat?
Oh, gosh. That's really hard for me to pick out because I've always been in a wheelchair, and I guess it would be nice to know what it's like to walk and run. And I'd mentioned to my daughter one day that running looked like fun. Her son's a long-distance runner, and they looked at me and they said, no, it's not. It's not fun. So, you're not missing out on anything.
Not as much fun as you think it is. Carlo, what do you think? Out of all the things you deal with, what is the toughest thing about having spina bifida?
That's a really good question, Terry. There's many different factors that can go into it. To keep the ambition and the drive to never give up what I have left in my walking and my other motor skills, and to be an inspiration. That's what helps me, is I know that I can be a help of somebody else.
That's a great thing. And Michelle, what would you wish for your daughters?
My biggest issue happens to be, which no one likes to talk about, the restroom issues. The whole having to make sure their bladders are emptied properly every couple hours, and then other things. That's my biggest issue.
Because those are ongoing challenges.
Yes.
Those are daily things that they have to
Absolutely.
deal with.
And can be very embarrassing.
It's always an issue. You're always thinking about that.
Wow.
Well, by doing the walk and roll November 21st, Cornerstone Park in Henderson, you've got a lot of things going on, Carlo. You can walk or roll however you want to do it.
Yes.
Is it a 5K?
No, it's a 1K. We have to plan out the route in the next couple of days.
I like shorter walks, though. This is good.
Because you and I and everybody else with SB and MS have an energy issue, we can't overdo it. That's why we're catering to our needs.
And you're going to have breakfast items starting out. You're going to have a barbecue lunch after. You're going to have auction items. I believe maybe a silent auction in there.
Yes.
Anybody's invited. I heard $10 mentioned somewhere. Is that just the cost to participate?
That was just a number I pulled out of the sky.
It's free registration.
Yeah, it's actually free, but if you're going to come on, throw us a few.
Sure. So it's free to be part of it,
Yeah.
but get involved.
Yeah.
Right. We're soliciting from our families, and my sister in Canada always sends us $100 towards it. The money is going to be well spent. It's for research. It's to help people that are here for equipment, literature, all relating to spina bifida.
Programs. support services.
Right.
Scholarships to go to the conferences and education days, and for social activities, because the more we get together as a community, the more we show that we're strong and we're not going anywhere.
We could show our support by being part of the Walk and Roll happening November 21st at Cornerstone Park in Henderson. Michelle, you knew that website.
Yes, www.walkandrollforsb.org.
walkandrollforsb.org. I'll make sure that the links are on our Talking Solutions Facebook page, along with, of course, a podcast of our discussion today. In closing, what is the one thing that you wish that people understood about spina bifida?
Well, we're people just like everybody else. We do things a little bit differently than maybe, I don't want to say regular person, than a lot of people, but we can get it done.
Yeah.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
I like your attitude.
Thanks, Mom.
That's cute. What do you think, Carlo?
My great tip of the day, that spina bifida has been known to be as closely related to a cerebral palsy. So a lot of people know more about cerebral palsy than they do about spina bifida. So you can relate to spina bifida in that way. It's very similar.
Some of the smartest people I know on this planet have CP. So the disability doesn't keep you from being smart, from relating to other people, to getting your story out there, to doing everything you can do. I think it's a great thing. What do you think, Michelle? The one thing that you wish people understood about spina bifida?
That it is out there and there's people affected by it. And every average day person, we all need to be aware of it and support each other.
That works in a lot of cases. Is there anything that I forgot to mention?
Well, I think it's important people realize that you do have the same kind of intelligence as regular people, varying degrees. I worked for 40 years, and people were always surprised that, I was the boss. I always kind of figured I was the secretary. They want to pigeonhole you. But like the others say, if you just accept it as a regular person, that person that you're interacting with will tell you what they need and when they need it. If my door is stuck on the van and I can't get open, I'll roll the window down and ask the next person, excuse me, could you kind of give my door a shove? And I've never had anyone say no or take my chair.
When people do something nice for me, I always thank them for their kindness.
Yes.
And we can always use more kindness in this world. Yeah. Walk and Roll is coming up on November 21st at Cornerstone Park in Henderson. So you can get involved. There's no actual entry fee. You can come for free, but if you can throw in a few bucks to help the Spina Bifida Association with educational efforts, support services, programs, and such, that would be great. And it sounds like it's going to be a fun day.
We're very close to our goal. We've raised $20,000 this year. Our goal is 22, but I definitely want to break the national record for every chapter in the country, and that's 28,000.
You're a competitive guy, I can tell.
Yeah, and I think there'll be a lot of late hearts opening up to help us succeed. Thank you, Terry, for having us on your show.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Love having you here. Once people can get past the outside, they will see that our minds and hearts are all the same.
Yes.
Thank you so much, guys, for making the effort to come in here to tell us all about Spina Bifida on Talking Solutions.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
The World War I Centennial Commission is asking for your help this Veterans Day. Please share this easy social media campaign at countdowntoveteransday.org or hashtag countdowntoveteransday. Countdowntoveteransday.org is a one-stop web interface to help your club, civic organization, or group find volunteering opportunities to serve those who have served us. Let's get a great volunteer network together this Veterans Day. Visit countdowntoveteransday.org or hashtag countdowntoveteransday.
Hi, I'm Mickey Albright. I am here to talk about the Lollipop Run, which is happening on November 7th, 2015 at the resort at Summerlin at 8 a.m. is start time. We have a 5K run for adults and children. We have 1 mile walk for adult and children, and also a 100-meter dash for children 9 years and under. Carla Ray is going to be our MC for the KKLZ morning show. We're raising money for the Nevada Children's Center. For information on the Lollipop Run is lollipoprun.com, or you can go on active.com to sign up. Hope we see you there.
Help Stop Bullying Vegas, featuring a carnival-style atmosphere with games and youth dancers, singers, and artists. The Youth Empowerment Festival will be hosted by Nevada Child Seekers on Saturday, October 24th at the Springs Preserve. Come to this showcase of youth performers supporting anti-bullying efforts in the community from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and stay for Springs Preserve Haunted Harvest beginning at 5 p.m. Don't forget to bring your little gals and goblins to enter our costume contest, and please support Nevada Child Seekers at www.nevadachildseekers.org.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Forbes with Nathan Adelson Hospice. Come and join us for our 20th annual Serenades of Life Doctors in Concert, presented by the Lynn Ruffin Smith Charitable Foundation, featuring Kenny Loggins on Tuesday, November 10th at the Smith Center at 6 p.m. We'd love to have you. Or you can purchase them online at www.smithcenter.com, or you can call me directly at 702-938-3910.
Talking Solutions is a production of the Community Relations Department here at Beasley Media Group Las Vegas. Get more information on today's topic on our Talking Solutions page on Facebook, where you will also find links and a podcast of today's show. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.